Hello, and I'm finally back. It feels like forever since I've done any live stream, but we are back with the first episode of um, the show for the year. And excuse me while I switch scenes. There we go. And of course, I'm joined with Shadow. Um, One moment, I just need to take you off mute. There we go. So
You had me on mute.
I had you on.
Charming.
Yeah, I know. Um, so before we get into our topics, which we've kind of pre-planned very loosely, there is one thing that I do want to quickly address, and it's the three celebrity deaths that have happened um, very close together. Um, I'm going to be giving them in no particular order. Um, Sidney Poitier, who I will fully admit is an actor who I'm unfamiliar with, um, but I kind of want to check out some of his works because, from what I've heard uh, from the news reports from his death, he's been in a lot of good movies. So there's that. Uh, Bob Saget, if I'm saying his surname right, um, who uh, again I'm not familiar with, um, but the only thing that I am familiar with very loosely that he's been in is the Full House or Fuller House, um, and the one that I know the most about is Betty White, who unfortunately passed away um, New Year's Eve, um, and she was 99. So I think she was the oldest of the three. Um, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I could talk about the Golden Girls until the cows come home. Uh, it's just a really great show, and I've seen clips of some of the other stuff that she's done, like Hot in Cleveland, um, and when she hosted um, the Saturday Night Live. Like she's just really funny, um, and I do have her autobiography on my to read pile, so I will be bumping that up somewhat. Um, are you familiar with any of those actors?
Yes, I am. Yes, I knew about Betty White.
But none of the others.
Oh yeah, I have heard about hers as well.
What
And
what have
there's
you
there was
seen?
another death as well of a celebrity.
All right,
Uh, Gary Waldhorn died quite recently.
I'm unfamiliar.
So Gary Waldhorn played where are we? Gary Waldhorn played David Horton in Vicar of Dibley.
All right, that's not a show that I watched. Um, I'm only really vaguely familiar. Um, because Dawn French is like the main character. That's about all I could tell you. Um,
Yeah.
so that to one side. Um, what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about your thing, or should I do my thing first and then go on to yours and do vice versa?
Well, well, my thing is going to be split into several different parts. So do you want to start, and then I can do a bit
Yeah,
of mine
sure.
and go back to you?
Okay, so um, most of my stuff is going to be book related, uh, which I think will fit quite nicely with your stuff because yours is all books from what you were saying just before we went live.
Yes.
Um, so I think the first thing that I'll talk about is actually not books. I'm going to talk about my rewatch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, I am now 3 movies into Phase 2, and I think this is roughly where I stopped caring about the MCU because Iron Man 3 was a really bad start to Phase 2, um, with the fake out of the Mandarin. Big spoiler if you haven't watched that yet, but I mean, who hasn't by this point, you know? Um, and then the next movie to come out, because I'm watching it in the order that it was um, originally released. So the next one is Thor: The Dark World, and I really wanted to like that one because Thor uh, in the first Thor movie, I thought had a good mix of like Norse mythology, humor, and it kind of got the balance right between like action and uh, Dark World was just too dark and it lost a lot of humor. Um, and I really wanted to like it both yesterday when I done my rewatch of it, um, but yeah, it's just missing a lot of the stuff that I liked from the Phase 1 movie. So, I mean, we are starting to see the bigger picture unfold now because Phase 1 was kind of like the test to show that all of these can kind of mesh into one, um, and lead into the Avengers. Um, but it's showing the bigger picture, but the individual movies seem to be suffering somewhat. Um, Having said that, the next movie that I'm going to be watching, which will be tonight after we're done here, I'm going to be watching um, the Captain America, the Winter Soldier, um, which I think is a pretty good one because we get a lot of character depth for not only Captain America but the overarching theme for Phase 2, which, if I'm honest, I wish that they'd done Captain America first as a like big opener for Phase 2 because it's 3 movies into Phase 2, and when this came out, I was kind of at the point where do I really want to keep track of this, you know? And um, to be honest, even though this one is going to be a good one, um, it wasn't enough for me to like keep going with Phase 2 kind of religiously. And I can safely say, um, apart from the Guardians of the Galaxy, um, the rest of the movies going forwards, I haven't seen. So it's going to be a lot of fun actually forcing myself to go through and uh, finish Phase 2 and then see all of Phase 3 and then what's out of Phase 4 because I think we're still in Phase 4 now, right?
So you haven't seen Endgame or Infinity War or anything like that?
Not the last Avengers one that I seen was Age of Ultron. So I have seen um, the odd movie, but in terms of following on, like I'm forcing myself to do now, um, this is kind of my cut-off point. But it's rewatching them now. Um, I'm like wishing that I had stuck with it. But I mean, I can watch them whenever
So
because
you've missed a whole lot of stuff.
yeah.
There'll be big surprises, big things going on,
Well,
and
you
then you've got
say
the
that
then
I've
you've got
you
the TV series as well.
yeah, you say that I've missed out, right? But I've got Disney Plus, and so far, um, all of the movies have been on there apart from the Incredible Hulk. Um, and I'm not sure why they've not put that one on there. Apart from my only thinking is it's because the actor who plays uh, Bruce Banner isn't the same as who plays him in Avengers and the rest of the series going forward. Um, and also the two Hulk movies that we did get, although one of them wasn't part of the MCU, um, they are both essentially the same plot, and they're not that great as far as the Hulk movie goes. Um, Obviously, I know some spoilers for the movies that I haven't seen because you just can't um, avoid them, unfortunately. So when I get to Thor Ragnarok, I know one of the big spoilers for that one that's Hulk related. Um, but I won't say what that is because I don't want to be that guy. Um, but yeah,
And do you know much about what went down in Infinity War and Endgame?
Endgame. No, I did manage to um, avoid most of that stuff. Um, Obviously, I know certain actors won't be returning, so I mean I can take a wild stab at at that. Um, but yeah, I, I've got like all of these movies left to go, and then I'm gonna watch the TV series. Um, and what Disney Plus does is it gives you the option to watch them in um the order that they were released, or it gives you it in like timeline order, and it includes the TV series within that. Um, so it's like telling me where they all fit, which is kind of nice. Having said that, I'm still sticking with when they first came out because I'm wanting as close as possible to have that experience um, that I'll have had when they were actually coming out and you couldn't watch them in any other order, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's that. Um, I'm guessing you've seen like all of the movies and all of the TV stuff.
Yes and no. So I've seen all the movies, I've seen all of the TV series, but I've not finished all the TV series. I'm currently working my way through Hawkeye.
Okay. Hawkeye is not one of my favorite characters, so I'm hoping by the time I get to that point, it'll just be like really, really good because so far he's not that good of a character in the movies. But we'll see.
But yeah, it's quite. I like the Hawkeye series. It's actually one of my favorite. It actually is my favorite uh, live action Marvel TV series. And it's so weird as well because what I find weird about Hawkeye series is this isn't giving any spoilers, so don't worry.
Okay.
But it's kind of weird seeing Clint in the environment that he's in the movie. So like normally you're used to seeing in an Avengers movie where there's battles going on, or he's in a costume, and he's fighting all these beasts, all
Yeah.
these creatures from space or bad guys or whatever. But in Hawkeye, he does fight some bad people, but you see him sitting on the couch, eating food, watching TV. Like you just see him in like normal mundane environments and situations. And like that's kind of weird seeing an Avenger just sitting on the couch watching TV or spending time with his kids. That's weird.
I will say you do kind of get that though in one of the end credit scenes. I forget which of the movies it is, because
Yeah,
with me watching them so close together, it is kind of starting to merge.
merge into one movie.
Yeah. Um, the end credit scene where they're in this cafe or a diner or something, and like they just sat having food. Nobody's talking. Um, I think it might have been the end of the First Avengers movie, which interesting when it was released over here. It was originally called Avengers Assemble on Disney Plus. Even though I'm watching it on the UK server, it's down as just Avengers. And I thought they
Yeah,
couldn't use just the Avengers name because of the TV show of the same name, which has nothing to do with what everybody our age would think of as being the Avengers. You
yeah.
know,
I'm surprised the TV show you're referring to could have called themselves that, considering the comics were out beforehand.
I think they got around it because it didn't have Marvel's name in front of it. You know, I
Mm.
think that's how they got around it. But yeah, it's just really weird. Anyway, should we move on to your first thing that you want to talk about? Because I feel as
Yeah,
though I've
so
talked your ear off for like 20 minutes.
my thing I'm talking about is going to be split into three different parts. I'm going to be talking about the uh, world of the Gahulian world, should I say? Because I'm reading a book series about the Guardians of Gahul. And the reason why I'm calling it the Gahulian world is because there's more than just the Guardians of Gahul books within the series. So I'll, I'll briefly explain the different series. So the main series is the Guardians of Gahul, and it's about um, these owls who um, uh, basically protect owl kind from evil. And in the main series, the evil is head of the evilness is called Naira, and she's the leader of the Pure Ones. And the good guys is the Guardians, and we don't meet Naira until I think book 4, but that's not. It's kind of big. That's kind of tiny bit of a spoiler, but the but she is involved. But her the pure ones are known about from book 1, um, and basically to quick sum up is that the main character is a character called Soren, and he was he has a brother called Clud and a sister called Eglantine, and Soren basically got felt. Well, I'm not going to give a spoiler, so I'm just going to say what you assume from book 1 is that Soren fell out of his tree as a owlet and got kidnapped and taken to St. Aggie's School for Orphaned Owls.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
What
and
this sounds like is um like owls who are like superheroes or like some kind of god type thing? Because it just from the names of them, it's um, sounding a lot like um, the world of like a lot of the Rings.
He could have, yeah, he kind of could have get that from there, yeah, and um, and obviously, I don't know if you got from me being inferring it, but St. Aggies is not a good place. They're they're basically a sub branch of the pure ones,
Okay.
and
Well, saying pure ones, that kind of makes me think of the whole pure blood line, which runs through the Harry Potter
it's
series.
very similar.
Right.
So a pure one to the owls is a Tyto alba, so a barn owl.
Right.
Um, Soren is and his blood. Soren, Eglantine, and Claude are Tyto albas. They're barn owls. That is so I'll briefly pause on that part of it. Um, but as I said, it's a whole different whole world in the world of Ga Hoole. So the there's a prequel to the series that
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading called Horses of the Dawn, and that's a 3-book trilogy that is set in a time when humans were about, or as in the Cahullian world, they get called the Others. But they're
Interesting.
called humans. They're called humans in the Horses of the Dawn series, but when they're referred to in any of the other books, they're called the Others because they're no longer around.
Okay.
Uh,
I wonder why they
and
made that change then.
because they called the Others basically because they're the other living creatures that are no longer here.
Okay.
So they don't have a word for them in their language. You just call them the Others.
So somewhere along the line, human um, got removed from
Ex-
the language.
I'm not just removed from language; they've gone completely extinct.
Okay.
So humans are no longer in this world. Well, they are around in the Horses of the Dawn series, but that's the only time they're around.
Okay.
And
So
all
the whole world of it is um, different animals, and it sounds like the overarching theme of it is like how they all interact with each other and um, like save each other. That's kind of the vibe that it sounds like.
kind of, yeah, kind of the everything is like so. There's 3 series. No, there's not. There's 4 series. There's the Owl series, which is the main series. That's 15 books in this. Well, there's 16 books actually. There's 16 books in the main series. There is 3 books in the prequel, which is about horses. There is 3 books in a polar bear series called uh, is it Bears of the Ice or something like that. I think it's called Bears of the Ice.
Right.
And then there's a sequel series, but it's not really a sequel. It's like a it's basically trying to say is the series basically like same with the polar bear series. It starts during the owl series, but the wolf series, which is the other book, it's called Wolves of the Beyond. It starts during the time of the owl series, but then carries on
Right. Okay.
past when the owl series ends.
So without going into
And there's 6 books in that one so far.
without going into spoilers or anything, would you say it's worth reading the books in the order that they were originally released, or is it worth going from the first prequel book and reading them in um, timeline order?
Yeah, so interesting to say that is I started reading the first book in the Wolf series. That was my very first book in that world.
Right?
And I was reading it and I was thinking they were referencing this, they're referencing that, they're referencing the other thing. I'm thinking, and they're referencing things I knew nothing about. And I'm thinking, okay, I really need to start by reading the Owl series before I continue with the Wolf series so I can get everything that's being in context. So I have everything in context, sort of thing.
Okay.
And um, so I did that. I read the first, I think, three, I think, in the Owl series, but then I thought, wait a minute, I think I should start reading the horse series first and then carry on. And that's what I did. So my recommendation would be to read the horse series first, and then the owl series, then the ice bear series, and then the wolf series,
Okay.
which
And
is 30 books in total.
okay, and you're wanting to talk about this in like three different chunks, right?
Yeah.
Should
So
I
I'll
go on?
stop here.
Yeah, should I go on to my next thing then?
Yep, sure.
Okay. Um, I'm very slowly making my way through Agatha Christie's Poirot novels. I can never say his name right. Um, but he's essentially a hair version of Sherlock Holmes. Um, he's a Belgium, and he's like the best um, detective. And I've only read four of the books so far out of I think 50 odd. So like there's a lot more for me to read. Um, and you can read them in any order because it jumps about in terms of his personal timeline anyway. Because the first book that was um, written, which was the affair at Styles, um, that was like the first book introducing him. So it's like that's like ground zero. Um, but most people start with book four, which is the murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is apparently one of their best. And in that one, he starts being retired and he comes out of retirement to solve this murder. Um, and all of the Agatha Christie books very much kind of give this. If you've ever played Cluedo, like it's very much those kind of archetype characters. So like the butler did it in the library with the candlestick kind of thing. It's those kind of um, detective stories. Having said that, I did not tell who the murderer was in the Roger Ackroyd case until it was revealed at the very end. Um, whereas in Murder on the Links, which is the second book, I more or less got that one halfway through the book. Um, Having said that, I couldn't really give you plot points because I read that one uh, like back in spring last year, so I'm a bit hazy on it because I'm reading them um, fairly infrequent. Um, I've decided that this month most of my reading is going to be just the Agatha Christie books. Um, so I read the murder of Roger Ackroyd, um, and I was also reading it alongside Jurassic Park, which I've now read both of those books, um, and I'll go on to Jurassic Park after you've talked more about your thing. Um, but um, I really am enjoying just these fairly light reads with the Agatha Christie books. I'm actually 42% of the way through the Big Four, which I don't want to give spoilers for, but it gave me the impression that have you read Alex Rider? Any of those books?
Uh, I don't think I have.
Right.
I might have, but
Uh,
I
this
can't remember.
this might be a bit of a spoiler then. There's an organization in those books called Scorpia, and the way that they operate, it reminds me very much of that. So I think the Big Four was a big inspiration for how Anthony Horowitz wrote um, that organization. Um, I actually have contacted him on Twitter asking him if that was the case, but I haven't got a reply yet, and I probably never will. But I thought I best try because that's just that's how it looks to me, you know. Um, and whether you like Agatha Christie or you don't, you have to respect what she did for the genre, if nothing else. Um, like I love a detective novel, so for me, this is like the best thing that I could ever do. You know. Um, have you ever read any of her books?
I've not read any of her books, but I've got a lot of the TV series. So
Awesome.
I've watched lots of Poirot, a lot of Miss Marple. Um,
I haven't seen or read any Marple yet. The TV series with David Suchet, I watched about the first 20 or so episodes of that, um, and just fell in love with it. I got the DVD box set, and it is a huge box set. Um, like I'm surprised that they don't re-release it on Blu-ray and just have it be standard definition on Blu-ray for the sake of having more episodes on fewer discs and like taking up way less shelf space. But of course, everybody now is all about streaming. Um,
so
whereas
it'll be in BritBox, I'd imagine.
I think so, yeah. Um, there was some episodes on the ITV hub, um, which I think you can only have access to if you're in the UK like us. BritBox seems to be available no matter where you are. So
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
and BritBox is obviously a collaboration between BBC, ITV Channel 4, and Channel 5.
I don't know about Channel 5. I haven't seen them being added in yet. But yeah, definitely BBC, ITV, and Channel 4. one thing I will say about BritBox is when I was watching the classic series of Doctor Who, that was like well worth it for me because it meant I could watch my Blu-rays of the seasons that I do have, and then the ones that haven't been released yet on Blu-ray, I could still watch. Like, just so I wasn't waiting for months for them to come out. So that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool. Anyway, um, do you want to go on to your next bit now?
Sure. So go back to the Guardians of Ga Hoole, but this time I'll explain kind of a bit about how I found it kind of strange. So, but I wouldn't say I found it strange as such. I found it strange, but actually, it actually made it really good in the end. So, books 1 to 8 is all so far. 1 to 8 is about Soren, the band, and the Chaw of Chaws, which you find all about when you read the books. So basically, it follows the adventures, the battles, the good things that happen, the bad things that happen, um, through books 1 to 8. But then books 9, 10, and 11 is where the series changed slightly, and I would call books 9, 10, and 11 a prequel within the main series. So books 9, 10, and 11, it's the prologue and the epilogue are in the main series, or in the, like in the main. Well, they're all in the main series, but books 9, 10, the epilogue and prologues of 9, 10, 11 is like within the timeline of the main series, and then
Right. Okay.
in the chapters part of the book
Mhm.
is a prequel, and they basically follow the story of Grank, who was the first collier. Um,
So
oh,
it's so
Cody,
it's so it's like a midquill, really.
it, it's not. It's a prequel because it happens hundreds of years before the events of Book One,
Okay.
but it happens after the events of um, the horse series.
Right. Okay.
Um,
That gives me a better idea of where it fits in the timeline. Okay.
So I would
Carry on.
say maybe 6, 7, 800 years before book one. Anyway, so it follows Grank, who's the first collier, Theo, who was the first blacksmith, and it also follows Hoole, who you might recognize that name from the Guardians of Ga Hoole.
Mhm.
Um, and basically the Guardians of Ga Hoole live in the Great Ga Hoole tree, and it was named after Hoole, the first king of um, um, the owl world. And the Ga Hoole tree was named Ga Hoole because the tree was said to have Ga, which is spirit, and only certain owls are said to have Ga, and Hoole was said to have Ga, um, which is why the Ga Hoole tree was named as such. So basically, you hear the stories and adventures of Grank, Theo, and Hoole in books 9, 10, 11, and that gives you knowledge and information about um, what went on in the past. And it's really cool because in the prequel and the epilogue, the prologue and epilogue, the story goes is that the band is reading the legends. So when you're reading the chapters, it's like you're reading it along with the band, which gives you kind of makes you feel involved and immersed in story.
That does sound like a really fun series. Um, it's just the whole timeline thing. It sounds really confusing, but
And because I
if
know
you can
you,
get your head around that, that does sound like it'll be a lot of fun.
because I know you like to read things or watch things in the order of release.
Mhm.
But in this instance, you'd be wise not to do that. You'd be wise to read it in the order of timeline so that you'd get the references, you'd get like little mentions. If you don't do that, then things might go over your head a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas if you read it in the order of timeline, things that are mentioned, you would get.
I mean, with the Marvel movies, I definitely prefer to do it like that. Um, but yeah, different things n- need you to watch them in different ways. So, or read them in this case. Um, yeah. So, is there anything else, or do you want me to
Yeah,
go?
you can go into your Jurassic Park now, and then I'll finish off with
Okay.
the last bit of.
So, um, I'm not sure whether I've already said this. But it was a buddy read with somebody on Instagram, which, by the way, if you follow me on Instagram, you would see me post every time that I watching one of the Marvel movies, or anytime I do anything bookish as well. My Instagram and, well, all of my social media is on screen the entire time. So feel free to follow me on there. Um, I haven't done a visual for your YouTube yet, so do you want to give that a quick plug?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Arthur's Rolling Vlog, all one words, no apostrophe.
Awesome. Right. Um, and if I'm honest, I'm surprised that I got through this as quickly as I did, because it is a huge book. It is um, well over 400 pages. Uh, yeah, in fact, it's like 450 odd pages. So, um, quite a thick book for sure. Um, and I was reading along with the audiobook, which definitely helped. Um, there's a lot of stuff in the book which wasn't translated over into the Fest movie. Um, and I think had James Cameron got the rights to make the movie, uh, we would have got a one much closer to what the book is. Because the book reads more like a horror movie than what the end product of the movie adaptation is. And um, some of the scenes in the book that weren't used uh, for the movie adaptation were done later for the sequel, which was The Lost World, and the book The Lost World, by Michael Crichton, I've been told is a sequel to the movie, not the book, which is kind of confusing because the main character of that book and, in fact, that movie, um, this is kind of a big spoiler, but I have to say it. Um, they die in this. Um, the character that Jeff Goldblum plays, um, yeah, he dies in this, where he doesn't in the movies, and I'm not sure which one I like best. Um, I mean, this works really well as a standalone thing, so I can kind of understand why, uh, with him wanting to write a second book, he had to do it as a follow on to the movie adaptation. Um, but, I mean, yeah, it was just a hell of a lot of fun and more of a horror kind of thing than what I was expecting. Um, and even though it's kind of sciencey and um, the author doesn't talk down to you when it goes into those bits, um, and it's not boring at all. Whereas some science um, in books, that's usually the bits that kind of I would gloss over somewhat because you just get talked down to, or it just goes well over your head anyway. So, but Michael Crichton definitely got the balance right in terms of entertaining the reader, um, and kind of informing them on what science is like at the time when this book was written, as well as like the whole fantasy side of it in terms of bringing dinosaurs back. I mean, it definitely sounds plausible. One of the biggest things in it is the chaos theory, which is very real in science even today. So, like, it has aged fantastically well, even though it is about bringing dinosaurs back to life. Um,
So,
Go
so
on.
would you like? So you've as you said, like you'd prefer James Cameron to have done the movie. So would you have preferred the movie to be more of a horror with a 15 or 18 certificate than what it was just now, 12?
Um, well, given that all of the sequels and, well, whatever you would class Jurassic World as, um, like, they all seem to be cash grabbing on the way that it was done the first time round. So yeah, I would definitely want it to be. If they were to do it as a reboot, I'd want them to do it as more of a horror because that's how the book reads. But they would need to do a mix of practical things like the animatronics and the CGI like they did in the original, because the special effects in the newer ones don't look as good to me, which is crazy because they're newer, so we've got more things at our disposal to make them much better than what they actually are. And it's with like the Jurassic World ones in particular, um, they all just feel like cash grabs. They really do.
Yeah. But you see, if it was made a horror, I don't think that would sit well with NBC Universal because in terms of their theme parks, it wouldn't like fit. It would fit well if they're like their Halloween Horror Night type thing in their theme parks, but in terms of rides and attractions, I don't think it would fit well with that.
Quite
They've already
possibly.
got like
Yeah.
they have got obviously a Jurassic World and Universal Hollywood. They've got a Jurassic World water ride, and then in Universal Orlando, they've got in the Islands theme park, they've got Jurassic Park river adventure ride, and they've got Jurassic World Velocicoaster. I don't think if it was a horror, they would have those sorts of things because I don't think it would, even though they do Halloween Horror Nights at the parks. I
Yeah,
don't think having like a permanent attraction would sit well with the mass
yeah,
public.
true. The book is definitely much more geared towards adult readers, whereas the movie, I would say, is much more family viewing.
Yeah,
Although, because of that, when I was a kid and I was like the perfect age to watch the kind of Jurassic Park that we did get, it scared the hell out of me growing up anyway.
yeah.
So,
I think maybe you've been desensitized because you watch such extreme horror movies.
quite possibly, yeah. But, I mean, when I was like 6 or 7,
Yeah,
it was really scary to me, you know?
and it is scary to me as well. And but yeah, I think maybe it's the fact that you obviously watch a lot of hardcore, extreme horror movies that something like Jurassic Park doesn't seem as scary as it would do if you haven't like immersed yourself in that sort of world.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say the stuff
I'm
that
going
I
all I'm going all
watch is
I'm
hardcore,
going all I'm
but
going all psychologist on you now.
I mean, just looking over here, I've got Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Omen films, which, funny
You're
enough,
really not helping. You're really not helping your case. What you're saying, all these horror movies.
fair enough, um, the Omen 3 has
Uh huh.
Sam Neill in it, who, of course, was Grant in Jurassic Park. So, yeah, that's kind of a fun thing. But yeah, um, yeah. Anyway, um, I really like horror stuff. In particular, like the really old stuff, like uh, the old Universal ones from like the 30s and 40s, and then like the stuff from the 80s. So yeah, that's kind of my two eras that I've grown to like quite a lot. I could
Cool.
really talk about them non-stop, but because I know you don't particularly like horror that much, um, I don't think it would work
Yeah,
well for the show.
horror is not my thing, but you can talk about it in your sections if you want to.
True. Although you did say that you do like Psycho and that you're watching Bates Motel, which I'm very surprised that you
Yes.
would watch that. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm really
I'm
glad
surprised
because
myself.
it's a it's a great show. So
Yeah, I'm surprised myself. And once I get more into it, more episodes, I might discuss it in a future episode.
awesome. Are you still on season 1?
I'm on season one, episode 6.
Nice. You've got quite a big reveal if it's not already been revealed. You've got one coming up. I can't remember where the re- reveal comes in, but yeah.
What
And
the one about the police officer being a creepy person?
that wasn't the one I was thinking of, but yeah, that's one of them.
Yes, I'm carefully controlling my words because my channel is very family friendly. I don't want to keep that persona in anything that is um,
That's
online.
that's fair enough. Right. So you want to go on to your next thing now?
Yes, so I'm going to end with more about Guardians of Ga Hoole, and but this time I'm going to focus on the last book. So the last series in the world is the Wolves of Beyond series, and what I like about it is there's a character called Phelan in it, and I think he's the main is it protagonist? Is that the right word?
Protagonist.
Protagonist, protagonist. That's the word. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's, or should I just say the main character?
Just say the main character.
To-
What? What?
yeah,
Whatever's
uh,
easier for you to say.
yeah, yeah. So basically, but he's disabled. He's got a splayed paw.
Just like us.
Um, so he, so I quite relate to him a lot. And what my plan is that I'm currently on book 13. I'm about 65%, 70% through book 13. And my plan is once I've read all of the Owl series books and I've read um, the Bear series books, I'm going to reread book one of the Wolf series so I can get myself back into that world and understand all the references that it made, which I didn't understand at the time of reading. Um, and uh, like I said, there's 16 books in the main series, but there's also, so book 16 is another prequel, but this time it's more of a more recent prequel than the prequel in book 9, 10, and 11. So book 16 is like how the character Isilrib or Liz of Kiel came to be. And he is the teacher of Soren and the band. He's one of the main ribes in the he's the collaring the collaring ribe in the Ga Hoole tree when Soren first arrived. So it's his memoirs, is book 16.
Okay.
So
So.
it's a prequel again. And then there's two other books. One is about the history of the tree, written by a member of the band Ochilissa. And then there's another book, I think it's also meant to be written by Ochilissa.
So the Wolf books. They sound
Yes.
like they're quite
There's
late in the timeline.
it is. It's so the Wolf series, I think book one is like between book 15 and 16. Oh, your sound's gone, I think. Is your sound gone?
No, it's
No.
there.
Yeah. So book one of the out of the book one of the Wolf series is between books 14 and 15 of the Owl series.
Okay.
And then book two of the Wolf series, I think, is after book 15.
So
Um,
once you've read the 16th book, is there gonna be more, or is that gonna be the end of it?
so once I've read book 16, I will read the two books written by Ochilissa, and then I'm going to read the Bear series, the three Bear series books, and then move on to the Wolf series books.
Okay. This.
And then
Go on.
I also there has been a movie being made as well, but the movie was with a combination of books one to three, but they changed quite a bit of it, and they also missed out a heck of a lot.
I can remember when that one came out. Um, it just sounded really odd to me. Because it was like owls, but I admit when I seen that that was a thing, I did think it would be a one that you would watch. With th- this is long before you said that you were reading the books, so
Yeah, and when you read the books, when you watch the movie, you're like that's not how it went. Like that's not how the story went. Like what?
yeah.
And the character didn't do this. Character did that. No, they didn't do this.
So this
Like
whole series, as
like
confusing.
for for example, a big difference in the series is that Soren and Claude in the movie um, get get kidnapped and taken to St. Aggie's. In the book, it's just Soren.
Interesting. I wonder why they felt the need to have
Yeah,
the two.
and and also in the book, it is Clud that pushes Soren out of the tree to get kidnapped.
It sounds
In the book,
like the books um, that they were all written by the same person or
oh, it is. Yeah,
the same
it's written
group.
by it's written by the same all the same author.
Right. Okay. Because the Warriors books, which, as far as I'm aware, is all cats. Um, it's like every 6 books is uh, a different group of cats, and I think there is a polar bear series somewhere within those as well. Um, but it's a whole group of writers, but they're writing under the same name, and there's some miscommunication between them because one of the characters dies in one of the books a certain way, and then in the next book, um, it's explained completely differently. Um, so if you do read those books, that's something to be aware of, and that's one of the things that put me off reading them. Once I was told that, so
Yeah, but like, yeah, that probably put me off as well. But in terms of the Guardians, though, I would highly recommend you read these books because there is a lot of them, and it's a big, big ask, because there's 30 books in the series,
yeah,
but it's worth it because it's so immersive and it just draws you in from the word go.
well, that's a good thing. Anything that gets people to read is a great thing. So
And there's a whole world waiting out there for you if you just open up a book and start to read, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your tablet, or whether it's an actual physical book.
or even if it's an audiobook. Let's not forget the
Exactly.
audiobooks.
Yeah, audiobooks as well.
Because I mean, I much prefer the audiobooks most of the time because it means I can have a book going and doing other things too. So,
And and when I'm reading the Guardian's book, I'm actually listening to it as well. So I'm getting the screen reader to read me it at the same time,
awesome. Um,
which is a kind of a cheap way of doing it instead of buying the audiobook as well. It's kind of a cheap way to do it.
it is, but the voice is always kind of more robotic doing it that way.
I'm using one of the Alexa voices, so it sounds more real.
Ah, okay. Didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so that's what I've done.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that's gonna be the end of the show. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us kind of gush over books and everything. Um, feel free to interact as much as you want. Um, and yep, don't forget all of the social media stuff, which is just down there. Do you want to give your YouTube another plug?
Yes, so it's youtube.com/Arthur's Rolling Vlog, all one word, no apostrophe. And uh, like we said, we hope you uh, enjoyed our show and that you had a really good time.
Oh, I can't believe you went there. You're gonna do that every single week, aren't you?
Yes, it's my thing.
Fair enough. Alright, guys. See you next week for more of the same